Dang, man. The world is a chaotic place, and navigating it as a modern man can be tough. But don't worry. The Hart brothers are here to tackle masculinity one topic at a time to help out men just like you. So here we go, bros. This is Dang Man.
All right, hey bros. Now I've gone and done it. I decided that I needed to take the plunge into a multi-part series. Specifically one I'm calling The Road to the Manosphere. The bowels of male corruption. Shallow narcissists stuck in a perpetual loop of angry self-pity and loathing. A uniquely male tragedy, decades in the making, rooted in identity crisis and disorder. We've talked about this many times at this point. Great men take responsibility for their lives, value dignity not only in themselves but in others, and preserve and protect the vulnerable. Can I make it through 3 episodes and thread together a tale of disordered masculinity? Am I going to be able to keep it together? Well, I sure as hell am going to try. So buckle up, bros. This is Dang Man. Okay, so a couple things going on right now. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be kind of the waning weeks of Movember. So that's a big time of year for me. I've officially hit a milestone. I am a 15-year Mo bro this year.
Whoa.
Dang. Nice.
Yeah, so
You're a senior Mo bro by now.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think I've made it into the ranks of that elite class. So, so as always, if you guys want to know more about the Movember Foundation, just go to Movember.com and you can make a donation. But the short and sweet of it is they do men's health research. They fund things like prostate cancer, testicular cancer research, and they've done a lot of cool things with that. But there's a specific focus this year on men's mental health and suicide prevention. So take a look, go out there and grow a Mo. That's a great way to feel like a man. So, a couple other things. Do you guys every once in a while grow a garden, right?
Yeah.
You grow gardens at home? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I tried something new this year and I found it online from this. I just find like random gardening people online on YouTube usually. And this one guy and is in his clickbait headline on his on his little what do they call them, the video link on YouTube, he in the headline it said, "I grow 15 bean soup." Okay, I was like, heck yeah, I'm a bean fan, right?
Right.
And so what he did was he bought a bag of like the 15 bean soup, like Ham's 15 bean soup. Right, off like the bottom shelf of the beans section at the grocery store.
Yeah.
He's like, well, there's 15 different types of beans in here. So I took my beans. Now you can't plant like the split peas because they're literally split in half.
Right.
But every other bean, I just poked down into the soil and let them grow.
Wow.
Now this year, the squirrels got the best of them. I'll say that. They nibbled a lot of bean plants this year, but I had a couple come through and grew and grew and grew. And it worked. It was crazy to me. That's at the end of the day, now that like all the plants have kind of dried out and are crunchy and stuff like that, I went out there and I picked the actual bean pods off the plant, and the family was in here yesterday shelling beans.
Wow.
And they're literally like the dried beans you get off the shelf of the grocery store, like shelf-stable protein. So
that's cool.
I love to nerd out about stuff like that. Like gardening is one of those weird, hobbies of mine that I love to do. So I was trying to plant something weird like that. So, and then lastly, I've been on this, like, I always wax and wane with stuff, trying to cut back on my alcohol intake, right? Trying to cut down on some beer. I don't need a beer gut anymore. So, and I've been doing well enough with with my weight loss that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tiptoe into some things that I've kind of called off or out of bounds, and I'm replacing my beer with kombucha. Starting this week. So you guys like kombucha?
I do.
Yeah.
You have favorite flavors of kombucha or brands that you like?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite brand. There is a small grocery store in Rockford. It's Choices Market. And they have kombucha on tap there that they make.
Nice.
And that is really good. Yeah.
That's lovely. I'd love to do that someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I would say I've made kombucha many times.
Oh,
you have
really?
to buy a SCOBY. You guys ever seen a SCOBY? It's like the disc of like slime.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how you do it, James. You make tea. You make like a strong tea, and then you put a bunch of sugar in it, and then your SCOBY is it's an acronym for a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. That's what SCOBY stands for. And that thing that just ferments all the sugars, and then it's because it's open to the air.
Right.
It takes any alcohol and converts the alcohol essentially into vinegar, so into acetic acid.
Right. Okay.
So
nice.
that's what gives it its sour tang. But, so yeah, I'm a big kombucha fan. So this week I'll be getting my probiotics instead of dead yeast cells for my beer. So we'll see how it goes. But
Nice.
okay. Well, that's what's going on in my life. And this week, I want to try something a little bit different with some internet bullshit. So here we go, guys.
Right.
We've got, I don't know how much you have ever dabbled in this type of thing, but have you ever ordered a suit online?
A suit? No.
No.
Yeah.
It seems like a
Okay.
bad idea.
Yeah,
Well-
like I
well
don't
done.
like ordering shoes online. This is like way more complex than fitting shoes.
Yeah. Yes. So I want to, I'm scrolling through my feeds, stuff like that, and I see these suit ordering sites out there, and I found the one that I think is by far the most absurd, over the top. Like, it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys, I think James, we took you and the girls there. There's the restaurant, like that Kardashians restaurant in Rosemont. It's like the candy shop or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what it's
Oh
called.
yeah, that candy shop place with like the bubbling drinks.
Yeah,
and
like the
stuff.
fishbowl drinks.
Yeah.
Yep. And like if that sold suits for dudes, that's what this website is. So now this website, I can't tell you, it's got a lot of good reviews online, but when I go through it, I get like so frustrated with it because you can tell it's just a bunch of crap fabrics and stuff like that. So I've got a little bit of research here too, and I think it's worth maybe doing its own episode at some point in time on maybe men's fashion and suits specifically, that I can really nerd out about. But so I will provide a little bit of advice for folks who are trying to buy a suit, especially for guys like us that may not be able to buy a suit off the rack. So so this site is called the Gentleman's Guru. Okay. And it has anything from like tuxedos to accessories to prom attire, you name it. It says that it's been seen on the publications such as Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., and featured on the International Emmy Awards. Okay. But again, there's lots of these websites always have 5-star reviews that they've plastered on this thing. But when you get into it, like, okay, it's just a suit site. It reminds me of like when you go to a wedding or prom and you guys had to rent your tuxes.
Yeah,
right.
right.
I forget the name of the place we used to go to rent our tuxes at the mall.
Cinos.
Yeah, there you go. Cinos.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing, get ready. So if I wanted to buy a suit and I hover over the little navigation pane here for suits, this is not the way I would want to purchase suits. So first you can buy suits by color. And then it's not just black, gray, brown, the normal stuff, but they have burgundy, orange suits, gold suits, green and teal suits, purple, pinks, blues, you name it. So let's pick a color. James, what color should we take a look at today?
Oh, I think we should absolutely get a burgundy suit.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, let's make it happen.
Let's live a little, boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. So men's burgundy suits. It says, this is the description, up your style game to the next level with our modern men's burgundy suits. Whether you're looking for a maroon double-breasted suit or an exotic patterned burgundy mandarin collar suit.
Ooh.
That was a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Our unique selection of stylish men's suits come in slim fit, as well as custom sizes for you to choose from. Make a lasting impression with the color burgundy and feel your best without breaking the bank when you shop Gentleman's Guru. Okay. So as you folks who want to scroll through this actually looks like Ron Burgundy's suit from Anchorman.
It does.
It does.
It looks exactly like it. So
I feel like the tie is even the same color-ish.
Yeah, it's got a chunky knot on that tie and a matching pocket square. So, but let's keep on going. Let's see here. Okay, we're getting some paisley patterns, some crushed velvet.
Velvet.
Oh, whoa,
Ooh,
this just went off the rails here.
What the heck?
Ruby red and gold floral tuxedo. It's a 3-piece combination for the low price of $799.
Wow.
What the heck?
Oh, here's a nice checkerboard. Burgundy, polka dot, and they keep going. They got patterns up the wazoo here, folks.
Sparrows, wow.
Yeah. So if you want to live your aviary lifestyle, this is for you. Now, again, there's a time and place for this stuff, in my opinion. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I don't hate this actually so far, and even $800 for a suit, that's not totally out of question, right? Like people spend $800 on suits. That's a thing that happens.
Yeah. And I figured, there's gonna be some divisive opinions on this.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily wear Ron Burgundy's burgundy suit, but I don't hate it. Looks good on somebody.
Yeah. So let's click on this double-breasted burgundy velvet tuxedo jacket that is only $379, right? It's just the jacket, so it's reasonably priced for just the jacket. Okay, it comes in a bunch of different colors: black, navy blue, forest green, another black, a different blue, purple, and charcoal gray. So here's some of the features. It is 100% cotton. That seems suspect to me.
Yeah, I don't.
It is
okay. All right.
fully lined. It does say it's canvassed. That's actually pretty important. But the other, out of 4 descriptors, the last one is just sophisticated with a fleur-de-lis.
Fleur-de-lis icon.
It says 4 5-star reviews. Okay. Just a bunch of guys saying that they loved it. So, but I think what's important for me and why I want to kind of bring this up is it's still expensive. That's an investment, right?
Yeah.
I can probably go buy, actually I do have, I can probably find it on here or something comparable. Where are we at here? Yeah. So this one right here, this burgundy velvet tuxedo. I actually bought one of these off the rack from, I think, JCPenney, probably for $50. Right. So again, I don't hate all this stuff, but if I'm going to pay $500 for something like that, whew, man, it better be top notch quality. So I pulled up a lovely illustration by, it comes from The Art of Manliness by, Ted Slompiak. That they try to teach men how to look for a good quality suit.
Very nice.
So in 30, they said this is the 30-second suit quality test. Okay, you're going to look at the stitching. They should have clean and strong stitching. Okay, actually, you should actually see the stitching. You should have the lapels should not be creased. Essentially, there should be a slight roll. So the actual fabric and more importantly, the lining inside has kind of been fitted. So they aren't stiff, they aren't flat, they aren't wrinkled or crimped. They should have a roll to them. And if you, we'll talk about one of my favorite men's fashion people that I follow online. But there should not be what's called your collar gap. Okay, so watch out for the collar gap. That means your suit does not fit you. Okay, the buttons should be made of natural horn, mother of pearl, polished brass, or ceramic. So plastic is not on the list. So the pockets themselves should lie flat and they should be neat. The fabric, okay, this is important, it should be made of a fine yarn. And probably one of the more important pieces, it should naturally drape. So this is where I get into, like, if you're going to buy a thin, like a slim fit suit, that is the opposite of natural draping. So I like it appalls me, the skin tight poly suits that the bros we're going to talk about today anchor themselves, their style to. So no crazy colors, right? So I don't see burgundy on this list. So the construction, okay. So like it said in that one there, it is canvas on the inside. So a suit itself is usually made of like multiple different layers.
Sure.
And one of the most important layers is the canvas layer on the inside. So it shouldn't be like a single layer or two layers. But the construction on the inside should allow it to drape correctly, like the previous sentence there I talked about. And then lastly is the coat lining. So on the inside, it should be made of fine silk or rayon, well tailored, especially at the hem where the lining is hung, it's folded and pressed. Okay, so where can you find a different suit? All right, so I don't know if you guys follow Dye Workwear, specifically Derek Guy.
Yes, Derek Guy is awesome.
He is one of my favorite people of all time. So yeah, the way this happened, the events that led me through this was my time following Art of Manliness led me to Jesse Thorne, who is a different kind of blogger and podcaster. But then he is the one who led me to Derek Guy. Okay, so this is actually a little bit of an older post from 2020. It says where to shop for a suit. Now I will be transparent here. Derek Guy's recommendation can range anywhere from reasonable cost to absolutely crazy cost, in my opinion. So, but he would be the first person to be like, you should not spend a ton of money. You just have to find the right information that you're looking for. So again, you can kind of go through this on your own, but when you look at the couple pictures that you see as I scroll through this, you'll see the thing specifically when I talked about like natural draping on these gentlemen and the fabrics themselves. So this picture here is a good picture of like the lapel roll, and it's not crisply defined, but it is kind of, it naturally flows, that feeling. So, but I did, like I mentioned, there are a couple. So the armory is one of the areas that he recommends. Now the armory is super expensive. I'm talking like $1,500 per suit. And I would not go there unless I could, afford that. But an alternate one that I did find is this Spear and McKay. So Spear and McKay suits start at about $325, and kind of come in an average, I would say, of about $500. But nice, kind of Italian tailoring with these things. But I still think it's still an online suit that you're buying, which always makes me nervous. So when you buy one of these things, they are usually like you send in your measurements. So you have to kind of follow their guide for how to measure yourself. And then you're still better off to like take that then to a local tailor,
right?
Which can be hard to find, to be honest. And then you can do some kind of fine tuning from there. So, but like I said, I think suits is probably a separate, broader topic. But if I go back to the gentleman's guru here, I don't know if I would spend this much money on a online suit that makes me look a little bit like a candy shop. So, all right. Well, that's enough internet bullshit for today, guys. And let's jump in to the topic here. Okay. So when we started this podcast, we began with an episode discussing the loss or absence of modern masculine role models, and made the case that violence across communities stems from the lack of heroic masculinity and reinforced through disordered masculinity. I look at angry men out there and see lost people, and a lot of this mirrors the behaviors that I see from conspiracy theorists, and go so far as to act cult-like. I figured it was time for me to tackle this topic when I listened to an episode of one of my favorite podcasts, The Last Podcast on the Left, that featured an interview with Amanda Montell, an author and member of her own podcast titled Sounds Like a Cult, where they discussed incels specifically. You guys know about incels?
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
What's your take on
unfortunately,
incels?
this is a real thing that we must know about. And I worked with I'm sure I've worked with many, but when you say incel, my mind has like one particular person, and he's
okay. Yeah.
in my mind, and he likes Pepe the Frog, and like, yeah, honestly, he like seems like he's a person looking for community.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Beyond
That makes
just a
sense.
meme lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I listened to that episode of Last Podcast on the Left, and I did follow it up by listening to the episode from Sounds Like a Cult, where they also talked about the incels. So more later on how the concept of incels, beyond just the people who make up the incel community, behaves like a stereotypical cult. This was kind of a tipping point where, like the conspiracy theory nut memes, with all of their yarn connecting pins on a corkboard, there is a connection after connection, creating a web of intersectionality between these male subcultures, and they overlap in many ways. Topics ranging from QAnon to looks maxing to Gamergate and 4chan, even trad wives, all started to share a common current that surged and has now bred the evil empire we all know as the Manosphere. But there is a little bit of empathy and compassion I have for the men who are simply the front-line warriors, the grunts in this space, to use a common Star Wars-themed morality test. What about the janitor that worked on the Death Star? He died when it blew up. Does that make Luke Skywalker a murderer?
I have never heard of this morality test, Tim. I am so glad you shared this. Like, that I just love this. It's like the trolley problem, but for Star Wars fans. Like,
The trolley problem for Star Wars. That's good.
So now I used a current to describe this because I do think it's easy to get swept away. And as the geography around men changes, they adapt to their surroundings. It's just survival, adapting new ethics, beliefs, and behaviors to match the terrain. A cultural Lewis and Clark swept down a testosterone-fueled Missouri River to a new land of spite. So a quick primer on the Manosphere before we start this journey. Earlier, I referred to the Manosphere as the evil empire we all know, but if you're not in this space or frequent the Manosphere, you may not know what the heck I'm talking about. I didn't until about 3 years ago. I just knew there were dudes that saw the root of all of their problems as feminism and blew their life savings on things like Ferraris and polyblend suits that fit too tight, right? We just talked about this, guys. Know your size, bro. A good suit has structure, not stretch. So according to the unwomen.org, they define the Manosphere as, quote, an umbrella term for online communities that have increasingly promoted narrow and aggressive definitions of what it means to be a man, and the false narrative that feminism and gender equality have come at the cost of men's rights. These communities promote the idea that emotional control, material wealth, physical appearance, and dominance, especially over women, are markers of male worth. The Manosphere targets male audiences on social media, podcasts, gamer communities, dating apps, and just about all digital spaces. Many participants engage with it while searching for forums to openly discuss or learn about men's issues. But while content may appear focused on men's self-improvement, many of these groups promote unhealthy behaviors, like instructing boys and men to build themselves up by putting others down, end quote. So how does that make you guys feel?
God, it's just so dumb.
I think it's helpful to have a definition.
Yeah, that's true. There's some value behind that, right?
Can you imagine sitting there writing this definition? Like,
I know, like that's what I was
these
thinking.
Jerks.
Yeah, like, but I'm glad somebody did, because otherwise, like, I just think it makes me feel terrible, And
yeah. I think it's important that they do call it like that umbrella community. I'll get to this in a second, but like, it is such a broad concept. And I think it ultimately just comes down to like, I've talked about this a little bit before, but like the idea of the patriarchy as a whole, and how like men that are struggling with the ever evolving kind of movement away from that definition as the ideal man, and they just don't know how to do it. They just don't know how to grapple with a society where like they can't just behave like jerks, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they have to be aggressive and violent, because they have to force the world back into that. You know, that's their way of coping.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Mike. I've been grappling with this. Like, if I had to talk to somebody about like, well, when you describe men as aggressive, right? How do you help a guy redefine that? And I've been using the term physicality. Like, I think there's an element of like, I'm cool with guys being physical. Right? Like being fit and doing sports. And like there is a physicality to being a man that is probably different than the way women would define it, though many women participate in physical activity. Right. But to define it purely as just like aggressive is no, I'm sorry. Right. That's not who I am. So, but it's referred to as an umbrella term because there are, like I talked about, sub-communities within the manosphere, ranging from the incels, we talked about a minute ago, which are called incels for involuntary celibates. There are the men's rights activists, pickup artists, men going their own way, the acronym MGTOW, among many others whose beliefs are rooted in projection of their own problems onto others. So the opposite of being manly is essentially what that is. Some of the major players in the manosphere that some of you may have heard of are Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, Carl Benjamin, and Jordan Peterson. And there is a strong case that if there is like a Venn diagram where the same topics and feelings are crossing over into other online male influencers in like the fitness, financial, and self-help space, along with major influencers and podcasters like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, boosting some of the talking points from the manosphere.
Yeah.
If you're going to repeat it, you might as well own it, bros. This has also made its way into mainstream politics, specifically within the ultra-conservative wing of the right. Cue the 2021 quote from J.D. Vance's interview with Tucker Carlson claiming, quote, "We are effectively run in the country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too." What a tool. I don't know if they pause a second here. Did people say tool anymore? Like, is it an acceptable term nowadays? Like, do your daughters use the term tool, Mike?
Oh, no, they wouldn't.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah, no.
I still have to use it.
I think that's not a very good way to define old JD, because tools are useful.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay. So for today, I want to stick to the foundation for why these beliefs exist, rooted in conspiracy theories and cult-like behavior, and more importantly, how to interact with someone who is red-pilled or black-pilled, meaning that they're deep into the conspiracy that is at the root of the manosphere. So, like the Beastie Boys said, let's kick it.
Nice.
Another 40-year-old reference there.
Yeah, I don't think we can afford the rights for that one.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to start this first episode in the series exploring how the concepts of cult-like behavior and how it overlaps with conspiracy theories that are at the foundation for the behaviors writ large across the manosphere. Let's kick this off by talking about cult-like behaviors first. Okay, question for you guys. When you think of cults, what things come to mind, and how would maybe you describe a cult?
When I think of like cults, right, I think of, like Waco, right? Just like blindly following someone and their beliefs. You drank the Kool-Aid. The whole, it's confirmation bias run rampant, like it's, I guess that's what I think of. It's just like this, I'm going to blindly follow you because for whatever reason, I 100% believe whatever the cause is that we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does seem to
just-
like having that authoritarian person is definitely a cornerstone of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
And
think
as
often it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
No, just to butt in here for a second, just to correct a comment you made there, James. Flavor-Aid was the type of drink that was used in Jonestown, not Kool-Aid. So, as a person who is a big cult fan and watching all the cult shows, Kool-Aid has taken a pretty nasty rap since then. So let's get it straight, folks.
Oh,
Wow.
poor Kool-Aid.
Today I learned. Like, I think it also it often starts off as like again with like the welcoming of people who are looking for a community, who like maybe feel lost a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's a common thing about cults, is how you end up entering them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is this aforementioned fascination that my wife and I have with cult TV shows specifically, like documentaries about cults, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least the famous cults. I'll go a little bit deeper, like into the darker spaces, but we've watched pretty much all the shows. And once you get past the really famous ones, it either gets, like I said, really dark, or it's just the same story, just different cult leader over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes a cult a cult? That's a complicated question. There are always themes, even among those that are vastly different in their philosophy. So I found a list of recognizable characteristics of cults from Bethune-Cookman University online, listing things like isolating members and penalizing them for leaving, dishonoring the family unit, no tolerance for questions or critical inquiry, followers feel they can never be good enough. Now, to be transparent, I cherry-picked those from the larger list because they can be seen highlighted plainly in the Manosphere. You're blindly following a figurehead, and deviating from that is the worst thing you could possibly do. In addition to this, you'll commonly find behaviors like exclusive language, a highly polarized us versus them worldview, and attractive recruitment that preys on the disillusioned, lost souls, promising and often giving some structure and meaning back to their life, but at a great cost. For an example, let's look at Heaven's Gate. You guys remember Heaven's Gate?
Yeah, was there Kool-Aid in that one too? I mean, Flavor-Aid?
Flavor-Aid?
I don't think so, at least.
No?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
They didn't kill themselves?
They did kill themselves, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I do remember the comet thing, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it was peak 90s cult,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like, wow. Like, if I could do anything else more 90s than Heaven's Gate, I don't know if I could do that. So yeah, this was a UFO-based cult that believed that there was this, a UFO hidden behind the Hale-Bopp comet that was coming to take them away to a higher plane of existence. The leaders, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, went around finding people who were sci-fi nerds. They were looking for some meaning to their lives. They had specific rules that members had to follow to lead a communal and monastic lifestyle. They had special language. One of my favorite things about cults is their special language. So here's a couple examples. So their bodies
Hilarious.
were called vehicles, right? Vehicles, not bodies. When they graduate, that means they ascend to the next level of evolution. That next level is also called TELA, which is in itself an acronym that stands for the evolutionary level above human. Super nerdy stuff. Like, I'm talking like Star Trek nerdy here. Maybe even like Deep Space Nine level nerdy, right?
I think so.
Anyways, while I could probably do an entire show on cults, maybe even shows on specific cults, there's different podcasts that do that. What I want to emphasize is the cult-like behavior and how it is woven into the fabric of conspiracy thought and the modern manosphere. You don't get to be an incel and be friends with a Chad. You've been blackpilled. So, as we continue this series, keep these concepts in mind. Cults are often alternatively called a high control group, simply because defining what a cult is or is not can be difficult and carries a lot of other connotations. But I can say that men within the manosphere tend to behave like a high control group. We just call the people in charge influencers. A lot of these concepts or behaviors that we see from cults are either supported by or overlap with conspiracy theory. think of conspiracy theorists as kind of like disorganized cults, lacking a central leader. So there's no Jim Jones of the flat earthers, but a lot of followers that share the beliefs of that community end up self-regulating, right? Just because there's no central figure to kind of put punishment and dole out rewards doesn't mean that they don't do that themselves.
Sure.
All right. There's a ton of information out there on conspiracy theories, where they come from, who is likely to believe in them, and breakdowns of hundreds or thousands of different individual theories. Just curious, you guys have your favorite conspiracy theory?
Well, there's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the lizard people? You guys hear that one?
Heck yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
The
We're
lizard
going to
people.
talk about that one today, man.
Awesome.
Yes.
My favorite is that Jim Jones actually used Kool-Aid, not Flavor Aid.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
New
You just mentioned the
conspiracy theory.
flat earthers.
Yeah.
Like, I think flat earthers are one of my favorite because it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
And I love watching videos of the mental gymnastics that people have to go through.
Oh, yeah,
to
those are
explain
good.
things.
Those are good.
Like, I saw one the other day that was the dude was like, every person has their own sun. And that's why it doesn't get further away when you go up towards it. It's wow.
Yeah, one of my favorites is tangential to that. It is the hollow moon theory.
Oh, I've heard this one.
Or even the
What?
hollow Earth theory that there's like
What?
there's like a separate, like basically the Nazis made it to the moon and they carved out the moon with maybe help from like aliens, and it's like hollow and they come in and out of the moon from the dark side of the moon because you can't see it.
Can't
Are
see
they
the
just
dark
like
side.
hiding there for like, like building up
It's
their
like a
strength
military base. Yeah.
to retake the world? Wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So I've given this a lot of thought. At this point, multiple pages throughout this outline. But I see that there are a few things that need to be true for a conspiracy theory to exist. So hear me out here. This is my kind of framework. So first is some type of void, some missing piece of a story, a quandary, or something unexplained that needs some explaining. Then, what is commonly called illusory pattern perception. It's some array of facts, figures, or happenstance data that someone can perceive a non-existent pattern. I dug into this a little bit, and what I found really interesting about some of the studies looking at illusory pattern perception and its link to conspiracy was that even in arbitrary media, like abstract paintings, people who indicated that they believed in conspiracy theories were more likely to find patterns or intent in those abstract images. So literally like Jackson Pollock painting, they'd be like, yeah, I see it. I see the stories somehow that he was splattering on this paint arbitrarily. So finding these patterns or filling in missing pieces sends chemical reinforcements like dopamine that hits the brain and brings a satisfaction that is addictive, which means that people who are really into conspiracy spiral or tend to believe in more and more conspiracy. So this leads to my third key element of conspiracy, James's favorite, confirmation bias.
Yes.
Nice thing about conspiracy theory is that it's not science. You don't have the burden of proof holding you back. And any indication that the conspiracy is true is immediately pounced on. Now, the last thing is interesting, and I think that a lot of my sources seem to have left out this thing on their framework. And that is that there has to be a precedent, some foundation that keeps it anchored to a fragment of reality. That the fact that papers at one point revealed that MK Ultra existed has done so much damage, justifying the existing of any government conspiracy. Now, that's its own fun rabbit hole that I will not be going down today. But the point being, like, any fragment that holds it to reality, like some fragment has to exist. So let's do a little bit of a game here, guys. So as a fun rundown, I wanted to take a look at some famous conspiracy theories and break them down into those core elements. So those, remember, as a quick primer here, what whole existed that needs to be explained, the illusory pattern recognition, other conspiracies that intertwine with it or iterations on the main theory, and lastly, what fragment of reality or precedent exists that believers use as justification for their theory. All right, you guys ready to get frustrated?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then my blood pressure's up already.
Okay.
Okay, so the first theory, conspiracy theory, is probably the most famous conspiracy theory. Okay, JFK, that his assassination was an inside job. Okay, we're going to tick through the list here. So, is there some missing piece of the story in your guys' minds that people are trying to explain here? What do you think, James? You have something?
I mean, I think there's just people want to make up their own facts. I don't know if there's a missing piece, essentially, but I don't know. This one's tough for me. There's people that I work with that actually believe this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Well,
I think
you
for
got
me,
the grassy knoll guy, right? Like, where did the shot come from? Isn't that like the main question about that? Like, was it really the guy from the what was it, a book factory or a bookmaking building? Or was it somebody from the grassy knoll that did the shooting? Like,
sure.
feel like that's the question, the like thing that doesn't really fit that people latch on to.
I think more broadly, I think people are just grappling with like, wait a second, someone just shot the president.
Yeah, right. I guess you could just back it up to that.
No good human society would allow this to happen, or like that's, how could this happen in in the setting? I mean, obviously the 60s were the 60s, but the idea that like there's some explaining that needs to happen here, folks, right? So how about is there some non-existent pattern of observations that people use to kind of thread this one together? I think you like, yes, the grassy knoll people, right?
I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a lot of talk of like the way the bullet fragments hit him and the other people, and
Then so we'll go to confirmation bias. So what are some of those crazy facts that people have like, quote unquote, found to be true about this conspiracy? You guys have any thoughts there? I think the stuff that stands out to me.
I don't know if I know the details well enough. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the bullet fragment stuff has often come up where it's like, oh my gosh, there's actually like multiple bullets from multiple different angles. Right. And then they get into the background of Lee Harvey Oswald, right? Where like he supposedly was like a Russian agent because he just lived in Russia for a time. And then one of the craziest things, I think, is the guy who assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, where they're like, oh, he was obviously, was it Jack Ruby, right? Is the guy's name? He is obviously trying to shut him up, right? Which means that, somebody hired him to do that.
Yeah, it must mean that there's a conspiracy here.
Yes. So, and then lastly, I guess for this one, is there some precedent? Like, what is the precedent that exists that makes this crazy conspiracy anchored to some form of reality?
Well, like any other assassination of a political figure, like this is a thing that happens, and often there are stories that we don't understand behind them. So why not? Why wouldn't there also be an unknown story here too? Yeah.
Sure. So my favorite explanation for this one has kind of seen a little bit of a burgeoning recently, I think, in a conspiracy world, but that is that Lee Harvey Oswald did take the shot, but that one of the Secret Service agents in the front seat reacted and accidentally squeezed the trigger, and that's what actually shot JFK. All right. So, yeah, that one was a little tough because I think I will say out of all of the conspiracies, I do believe that is probably the most believable one.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to go off the rails here real quick, guys. So the next one is most prominent right now, anti-vaxxers. Okay, let's work through this framework. So what is the void? What are we trying to explain? What are anti-vaxxers trying to grapple with?
Complete nonsense. They're struggling because they believe vaccines cause other illnesses like autism, right? which is just not true. This one makes me so mad. Like,
Yeah.
we have literally, as a culture, a society, a nation, like eradicated things, and now they're coming back. Like, come on.
Yeah. Now's the time. If you don't have your measles vaccine, now you better go out and get it, folks.
You better go get it. Yeah.
Yep. So I think for me, the other one that the common thing that I've heard with this one is that they're beyond just the autism and other illnesses, is that they're somehow using vaccines to track people.
Yeah.
Right.
They're implanting devices into us.
Yeah.
That
Nano
was the
machines,
COVID
stuff
one.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there some illusory pattern perception here? This one I think is closer to what you're talking about, James.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're well, I mean, it's also very related to confirmation bias, I think. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
That the correlation of autism rates in the past 60 years or whatever to like vaccine usage, which correlation is not causation, etc.
Right.
You mean science just didn't evolve at the same time, Mike?
What the heck?
Yeah.
It's just, it's so frustrating, right? I mean, like, we've just gotten better. Medicine has gotten better, right? So now we're recognizing autism when, of course, there's going to be more cases because we're finding them and getting them the help that they need, right? And they've probably been vaccinated because they've been alive in this country.
And had responsible parents. So
yeah, right.
Okay, so here's where it gets slippery slope, for my opinion. Is there some precedent that creates this foundation that they can stand upon in your mind?
Okay, I don't know like an exact story or occurrence, but I would imagine that in the medical history of the United States, there have been some medicines that we've, deployed on people that had negative consequences and like caused some bad things.
It's literally it's the last 2 seconds of every commercial for any medication.
Yeah, sure.
Right,
okay.
right.
Yeah. Actually, that's enough, right? You don't actually even have to go back and look at like exact occurrences of when something bad might have come from medicine usage, but the fact that we have to warn you about the bad things is enough to make people make that correlation in their mind that something is going to happen to them because of this.
Yeah I think the other one, and again, like, the government has done a lot of bad things specifically to minorities.
Yes.
And this one that comes to mind for me is like the smallpox experiments from I think it's Tuskegee Airmen. That basically they gave them smallpox intentionally, just to like see what happened. Right. All right, we're gonna keep on going here.
Sure.
Let's do this. Let's get to one of your favorites, the flat earthers, Mike. The flat earthers.
Oh boy.
Obviously, there is some type of void. It's out at the extremities of the earth.
Yeah.
So, so what is the missing information? Is there missing information on this one? Like, I don't get it.
Well, it's that
I don't either.
It's that the earth looks flat, so why isn't it?
Okay. So it's like that base level of the ground looks flat that I'm standing on. So how can it possibly be round?
Yes.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
My God.
So, okay. So are there illusory pattern perception here? Or is there like a non-existent pattern other than just I see with my eyes that the earth looks flat in front of me? I don't know what that'd be other than that. So
yeah. I mean, I think what they do is more like when you come up with any like basic scientific fact that disproves flat earthism, like then they have to like think of another fake scientific fact. I think they go more in that instead of like seeing patterns, they like create new patterns that don't exist.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. They just create their own narrative as they go.
Yes.
So, okay. Any precedent for this one? Like, is there some foundation in reality? Like, I think I have to go way back to like ancient Egypt. I remember this episode of like Carl Sagan. Cosmos,
I knew you were going to say that. Yes.
Heck yeah.
That's the best explanation. Yeah. Where he does the bending of the paper thing.
Yeah. With the two obelisks.
Yes. With the obelisks on it.
And the guy walked like 1,000 miles or like 500 miles to get two obelisks and then measure the shadow.
Yeah.
Or he paid some dude to measure it in one location, he was in another, and he predicted the exact size of the Earth based off of that.
Yeah. Amazing. In ancient Egypt, they figured out that the Earth
Yeah.
was round. And
Yeah,
so,
and not
Tim,
just that it was, but they measured it pretty precisely too.
Yep, yep. So if there's any precedent, it's sometime before that.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's any precedent, I will say also add in like, I can only believe the things that I can see with my own eyes, and I don't believe anything else. Right. So, so I don't believe in germs. I don't believe in. All right, James, this one's for you. Let's talk about reptilian shapeshifters, specifically that they are running our government. Okay.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, they're all lizards. Ultimately, they're all lizards. I mean, they live underground and they come out to run our government.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like still today?
I don't know
Barack
if it's
Obama
still today.
is
Did
a
this
lizard,
end
Mike.
Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, they're all lizards.
Well, at least
this
they're
is
not
very
running our
tangential
government
to
anymore.
QAnon. So,
Yeah, for sure.
all right, so okay, let's keep this on the rails here, guys. We're getting off track. So, framework number 1: what is the void they're trying to explain here? What is the thing they're trying to explain by saying reptilian shapeshifters are secretly running the government?
A creative way to justify their hate for Democrats? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like
Or just
that's all
generally
you-
people in charge. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
in charge? Yeah.
I think that's
Because
all
the
you can
Queen
really
of
come
England
up
at one
with.
point was described as a reptilian.
Oh, that's
so-
right. Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
it's
not
a
just
global-
Republican, Democrat. Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. Is there a pattern recognition of some kind here?
Oh, I don't know.
The
That's
alien
hard.
movies? I don't know.
I think there's something to do with their movements. I think I've read this somewhere. Like they moved certain ways, and these people they can recognize these twitches in their body, and that they must be lizards.
Wow, I hadn't heard that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like that their tongue movement or something like that.
That's-
The other one is
yeah.
so if you really get into this goes south real quick, folks. This is where the reptilians are one of many alien races. If you didn't know this, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, along with the Nordics and the Draconics and all the different the Greys, right? The tall Greys and the short Greys.
Oh yeah.
Flexing my nerd muscles there, guys. So, and this one unfortunately was a big one that was pushed by a guy that goes by the name of David Icke, and David Icke just happens to be a crazy anti-Semitic.
Oh.
So. So, like I said, it goes off the rails real quick with anti-Semitism, which I think most conspiracy theories do. They usually get there eventually, but yeah, you got it. So that pretty much all people in power are reptilians, and that's easy to find by their religion, I guess. I don't know. Okay, is there any precedent here? I don't know if there is.
I don't know.
Ancient
don't know, my
aliens.
framework.
Ancient
Yeah,
aliens
there
is
you
my
go.
president.
Yeah, George Sulakis, or what is his name? Right,
I can't remember.
Giorgio from Ancient Aliens. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was thinking
The guy
of a
with the
different
crazy
show.
hair, right?
Yeah, no, I was thinking of Graham. What's his face on that Netflix show is who I was thinking of. Same show, basically.
Garum.
Yes.
Okay. Last but not least, let's do one more here. That birds aren't real. They've
this
been
is a good
replaced
one. I
by
love this
surveillance
one.
drones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through it. So, what are they trying to explain? What's the void?
Government overreach.
Sure.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
The need for justification for my militia. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm being monitored nonstop. Okay. Is there a non-existent pattern? What's the illusory pattern recognition there, James? Yeah, everybody got it.
I mean, birds are weird, and like, like we can kind of predict their behavior. So I think it's easy to be like, you see that bird sitting there when he stands like that, like you can tell it's a robot. Like I think it's easy to be
That's
like
true.
to relate birds with like UFOs or robots.
Sure.
I think it just works.
Yeah. They're just
They can
constantly
communicate.
watching you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're constantly watching you too. Right.
And they
They
can
got nothing
communicate
better
with
to
each
do.
other. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're suspicious.
Mhm.
So, what is the confirmation bias here? Any confirmation bias?
Oh, I mean, if the bird is looking at me, he must be spying on me. Like,
yeah, and they fly really high, like the really big birds. That might be another one where it's like the depth perception. Like when you look up in the sky and you see like a big bird, you don't really know how high it is. It could just be, it could be way up there. So,
Sure.
and is there some precedent for this? For birds not being real, being replaced by surveillance drones?
I mean, surveillance is real.
I mean, there's been plenty of surveillance in general in weird ways by governments in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the NSA
drones.
stuff like that.
Right.
She's like, I hope I'll reel that back. If the NSA is listening, you guys are fine. I have nothing against you.
They're listening to the Manosphere these days.
That's true. That's probably true. We don't have enough subscribers to justify that. So
don't worry, NSA. We'll tell everybody they're just birds.
Yeah. All right, but so let's keep this going. So what is funny about that last one is that it was, no joke, an engineered conspiracy theory. I'm not kidding. I don't know if you guys do this.
No, I was actually glad you brought this one up because I didn't know it was a conspiracy theory. I only knew it as this guy who did this as a joke.
Yeah. So this guy who made it up, so his name is Peter McIndoe, was conducting a social experiment to see how far it would go. And he's got a whole TED Talk. Like, you can go find his TED Talk where, like, the first 10 minutes, he tries to convince the audience that birds are surveillance drones. And then he flips the script. So he gets deep into this stuff. So he spent 5 years in character driving around this van that was trying to get people, and he would show up at like rallies with signs that would say that birds aren't real. But his point was just to try to make the point that misinformation is bad and how damaging it was.
Yeah.
Now that's a manly level of dedication.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the last kind of piece of this puzzle that I wanted to kind of explore was, so you got cults, conspiracy. I want to explore the next logical question that any sane person is going to ask. How do you get people out? So what do you guys see as the hardest part to convert someone who is truly entranced by some conspiracy? And if you have an example, have you ever been in that situation where you have had to actually try to get someone to come out or come around to something?
I think this is the hardest part about this. And I need to read some more on this topic because I know there are smart people out there that have written things on this. But like, I find it really hard because 2 reasons. Like, I am very factually motivated, and I work in a field where like we we're very scientific about, and that's not about how we communicate, and that's not what works with these people. So that's really frustrating to me. And then 2, I think like just because some of the ideas are so ridiculous, like it's hard to find common ground, nowhere to begin. And even the fact that I think it is so ridiculous probably puts that person off to even listening to what I have to say, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I listened to a Scott Galloway. He's got like this mini podcast he calls After Hours or something like that, or it's After or Open Office. I don't remember the name of it. But there was somebody who was talking about, or asked him the question, how do you talk about the political situation in the U.S. to your kids? And he has teenage boys that I think are like 16 and 18. And he talked about how he really doesn't talk to them about it. But if they come up with some crazy thing that they heard online, that he has found that he can't immediately be like, no, that's wrong, and like try to belittle them, but he'll ask like questions at that point. He'll ask like, well, where'd you hear that from? And have you considered other points or other perspectives? Right. And, that can be really hard. I think back to our episode on influence, right? Where I think what you're describing that there,
episode too,
right, is like rational persuasion.
Right.
And just
exactly.
Like, it's not going to work. So, but I don't know, James, do you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be, I think getting someone out of something like this is going to have to be like more their choice. You know what I mean? Like if that makes sense. Like I would think it would be extremely difficult to convince someone. I guess I'm thinking more like cult level stuff.
Sure.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
where my brain's at. Because I'm sure that they assign a lot of their own self identity with whatever their beliefs are, and
Yeah.
that's got to be hard to dig your way out of that.
Yeah, it reminds me of like different stages of cancer almost, for like
Sure.
lack of a better analogy here. Like somebody who's got a, first stage conspiracy thought is probably pretty easy to convert back to reality, right? But a stage 4 conspiracy theorist is like so deep into it that it's basically defined their whole humanity, right?
That's a good point, Tim. Like going back to your, we were talking about Galloway a minute ago and his talking to his sons. Like it's probably much easier to talk to your kids and catch them when they're in that little state than to wait. And
yeah, you hear that, parents?
Yeah,
talk to your kids.
Talk to your kids.
The other thing that I think is interesting, and I don't know if you've seen this video. It's been circulating online for a couple years, I think, but it is like a security camera footage of a kid who brought a gun into his school. And he's walking down the hall. Like it's like a rifle or shotgun. It is a long gun. And somebody walks up to him and as they're talking back and forth, you can't hear it because it's just the security camera footage. And the person, I think it might have been a guidance counselor or like a PE teacher or something like that, goes up to the kid and like hugs the kid. And then like other people come out and they take the gun away, and then the kid with the gun just like hugs the person back. And like that in my mind kind of like sums up the rest of what I'll go through here in my opinion.
Interesting.
So one of the more compelling stories that I learned about was from a guy named Dr. Stephen Hassan. Now, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there from Dr. Hassan. I encourage you to go check them out. They're pretty insightful. But the most important thing that came out of this was that the concept of forced deprogramming is never going to work, right? We just talked about this. Like, there's no way you can argue somebody's point being incorrect.
Right.
But he comes from a very specific perspective because he was in a cult. So he talked about his time in that cult and how he was essentially, at the end, kidnapped by his parents and was willing to kill his father, who was driving him down the road to an undisclosed location before the dad pulled the car over. It wasn't until he saw the tears in his father's eyes that something clicked for him. Ultimately, it was compassion. Essentially, living the experiences that contradicted the narrative from the cult. Similarly to conspiracy theorists who are unbothered by the assertion that what they believe is ultimately wrong. Their whole shtick is that you're ignorant to the obvious truth. You just can't see it. Now, there's a lot I've learned about adult learning in my line of work, and it can be simplified like this. Presenting facts and information orients someone to a topic, but it does very little to secure the learning. Ultimately, the person must experience the phenomena being taught to solidify that learning. It's why you did science experiments in chemistry class. You would never have believed that some of the crazy chemical reactions were real unless you made it happen yourself. So there's a famous story about a flat earther that went to great lengths to build a rocket to prove that the earth was flat. And when he launched the rocket with like a little video camera on the top, he actually saw the curvature of the earth, and that's what it took to change his mind. That just boggles my mind. All right, so let's put a bow on this one. The first step on the road to the Manosphere begins steeped in the rank tea of conspiracy and cult-like behavior. The hucksters and misguided gurus of the cults of the past have been replaced by oily men with thick, chunky shades and shaved backs. They're preying upon men who appear to be struggling with how they grapple with and adapt to modern society. feeling like the world is stacked against them. But instead of finding a productive path forward, they create an exclusive club based on their own belief system and have othered those who haven't joined the club. Oftentimes, this belief system is harmful to women, the vulnerable, and in many cases, themselves. So in the next episode of this series, we'll take a look specifically at the early days of disordered internet cultures and how they've culminated in a modern conspiracy that served as the model for the Manosphere, specifically 4chan, Gamergate, and QAnon. It's going to be fun, guys.
Nice.
All right, so a couple questions then for you guys to kind of talk about here. All right, so we're starting this trip down this road to the Manosphere. Anything in general you would say men should take away from some of the themes we talked about today?
Go ahead, James.
I mean, like, I think that just pay attention to how we started this series, right? Like, we're talking about the Manosphere and we're comparing it to things like cults and crazy conspiracy theories that we know aren't true. And I hope that that's attention grabbing, and I hope that people will come back and listen to the rest of this, because I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be a fun series. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a little bit ago, I think it was again when you were talking about Galloway and talking to his sons, like that just to be sure that when you're getting into a thing that you think might be interesting or a new idea or something you want to learn more about, like to be careful about reading multiple sources and considering other people's opinions, which I think the wider thing I would say is that like there is a world full of people out there who are all trying to do their best in life, and like if you find yourself in a place where you are vastly disagreeing with like the majority of the people around you, especially those that care about you, like just take that as a mini like warning sign to the world's not out to get you for the most part. Like
they probably don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think to like maybe expand a little bit on like what you were saying there, Mike, is like I'm currently have an audiobook from Barbara McQuaid. I don't know if you guys have heard of her. It's called the Disinformation Sabotage, and it's called The Attack from Within, right? And she talks about like this completely normal person, and I guess normal is however you define normal, right? But an average person that just kind of fell into this rabbit hole of misinformation, disinformation, and ended up being one of the people on January 6th at the protests and the riots and J6, the whole thing, and ended up being killed, right? Like trampled in a crowd. And it's just like, man, you've got to be careful with the things you believe, like vet the information. Don't believe everything you read. Use your brain.
Yeah. I think, the main sentiment I guess I'm taking away is like, I see this a lot. Like, it's like a leader of people that I've been for so long now. And I see it broadly, across. And some people are more susceptible to this than others. And I think you touched on this, Mike, is like, generally people are not out to get you. Right. And I think the rare, we sensationalize it, and the media sensationalizes like the bad situations. I mean, look at the news lately. And like the idea of that exact same thing is going to happen to you, or that, there is this like engineered conspiracy that is somehow holding you back is so far-fetched. And like, it just isn't happening. Like we get people at work that like, oh, this person set me up or something like that. Or like, oh, they meant to do something. It's like, let's talk about this. Let's reflect on how much effort it would take for that thing to happen. And for like government conspiracy theories, folks, here's what I got to say. The government barely works as it is.
No.
It's true. This is true.
The government is still shut down as we record this episode.
Yes. Right. So the likelihood of them pulling this like crazy ass conspiracy together just to so that your portfolio doesn't make a buck. Like that's not what it's all about. So so I guess I'll ask more specifically, is there something that makes I think you talked about January 6th, James, like when you look at the swath of people who participated in January 6th and the kind of things that led them there, specifically QAnon, they're vastly, like probably 80% of them are men. So anything that you think, like, what makes men specifically more susceptible to conspiracy thought? Any ideas there?
Well, like the whole reason, not the entire reason, but like one of the biggest reasons to do this podcast, like, is because it's a fairly well observed fact that like men are in a bad place right now. And like, we're trying to explore what that means. But, like a lot of it is because they don't know what it means to be a man anymore. And they feel threatened about like losing, like all the things we talk about, perfectly sets them up for this kind of thing. Because then somebody comes along with this like secret knowledge about this thing and you're interested in it and you're interested in it with this person together. And it's like kind of fun because now you have people to chat on the internet with about whatever this thing is. And it like kind of itches, I guess, meets some of the, scratches some of that itch in a way for those men.
And I think maybe a little bit too might be that like, we talk about how like men are more aggressive is what I think we talked about earlier. And like, well, I don't know so much about aggression, but like, I think at some level we want to fight for something.
Oh, interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
So if this is something that like, oh, I can get on board with this. I can stand up and fight for my belief in this thing. That again, that's another itch that we're able to scratch by believing in this conspiracy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I think if I pull those two together, those two thoughts is like I've anchored almost to this belief now that I've kind of formulated in my mind that since this big civil rights movements and the women's liberation movement specifically, like men have not known how to navigate that space specifically. And because the experience that we've gone through has been vastly different as a person, or as a group that used to be in like this supreme position of power. And now we're wrestling with what that means when we give up some of that power and help people attain that power. Right. And to your point, James, like I go back to one of my all time favorite quotes comes from the Lord of the Rings. And where Frodo says, I wish it need not have happened in my time.
Yeah.
Right. And to that, Gandalf says, so do I. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what we do with the time that is given us. Right. I think about like the men out there, and I've said this before, you're confronted with basically two paths in this time where we are confronted with a social identity crisis, essentially. And either it becomes, no, I'm going to become disordered and try to reinvigorate some antiquated patriarchal ideal.
Right.
Or I become more heroic in my masculinity and I don't know what the heck that looks like.
Yeah.
But, so I do think maybe it's just like the chaotic identity crisis that we're having collectively that makes us more susceptible to like, I just need something that, that void that exists in the in that four-step framework. The void for us right now is I've got to work harder than the people of my father's and grandfather's generation, or at least work differently. Right. And, I'm seeing things that make me feel upset, right? If I kind of use that same framework as we use for talking through conspiracy thought. So, okay. But so a very different question here. I'm not necessarily a subscriber to all conspiracy, but I like a good conspiracy theory every once in a while.
Sure.
Okay.
Be fun.
They make a good story, right? So in your guys' opinion, how do you describe the difference between when conspiracy is fun versus when it becomes harmful?
Like harmful to yourself or harmful to others?
umbrella harmful, James.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Umbrella.
And maybe you
harmful.
just
Got it.
answered it.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
I suppose you could do that. Yeah.
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 I think it maybe just like the first thought that comes to my mind is like maybe it's starting to become harmful, like when I've completely lost yourself to it.
Sure.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
maybe before you start reading into a conspiracy theory, like take a mental picture of who you are. And then if you're not that same person, like a month later, like, yikes. Like maybe you should take a hard look at what you're reading.
Like if it consumes your entire identity.
Yeah.
I think, well, it's like flat earthers as an example. Like I love that conspiracy theory, but I know that it's false. And like, so I feel like since I know that it's false, it's fun to read about all of the things that people say, because it's like, I can see how they got there. That's pretty clever, even though I know that it's, so I would say that it is harmful than when you can't acknowledge that it's false. But that's part of the rub, right? That's why it's so difficult. Yeah.
I think it's, going back to this conversation that I listened to from Scott Galloway. Like you see a lot of people lately talking about how like we've lost the ability to critically think. Right. Yeah. And I think that is both a symptom of and an enabler of the situation in my mind. Right. And I do think, when you get to a point where, generic term, when you're no longer able to critically think, which means you're able to, evaluate both sides of a situation. And it goes back to your thoughts on confirmation bias, James, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in this tunnel of confirmation bias, but it's like there is a social element to, when you age with somebody who's in this hole, right? Like I teach a lot of, I teach a lot of new leaders how to be leaders. And one of the things I commonly am confronted with is you guys have heard me talk about this before, but they will say things like, well, the people just don't care, or they've got, they don't believe in anything I tell them to. And back to, go back to the episode on influence. And what I'll often say to people is, if this person doesn't believe you, I want you to first hear them out, because they may actually know something that you don't know, and then you can actually meet them where they're at, and you can come to some resolution. But worst case scenario, you hear them out, and you go, "Cool, let's test it. Let's see what happens. Let's let's run that play, right?" And if you wrote a good play, right? No football reference here, James. You'd be proud.
Yeah, this is good,
right?
Man,
you're gonna run this play.
Let's keep this going. Let's keep this going.
And you get a decent amount of yards. You get a first down on this play. Maybe we should run it again, right? If not, guess what? You learned the hard way that you were wrong, right? So I do think that's like, I don't know, when a conspiracy theory is fun, it's like, again, where your critical thinking says this is just a little bit too far for me, right? Again, I'm a big fan of like UFO conspiracy, stuff like that, right?
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. That's what I would like to discuss with this question. What's the difference when conspiracy theory is fun versus becomes harmful? Like we didn't talk about UFOs, and I think that this is an interesting question for UFO conspiracy theories. Because the other confounding, I don't know if it's confounding, but at least compounding factor in this with the UFO thing is that in the case of UFOs, I don't think it's 100% false. I think that there's a good chance that there are extraterrestrial life, beings out there. So what do you do with that? That kind of throws a wrench in things.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's like, if you want to know the topic, you have to understand the science behind it. So specifically if I go into UFO stuff, like I am a huge astrophysics nerd. I referenced Carl Sagan earlier. Like that dude is like on a pedestal for me, right? And like I used to read for fun books by Michio Kaku, right? Like understanding physics. Like So there's things like the Fermi paradox, where like essentially you go through like, well, how many different civilizations could exist, but then you're confronted with the reality of the ability to actually move through space in any amount of time, right? So can I interact with a different extraterrestrial civilization, right? I could, but it's going to take me 3,000 years to get there, unless I know something different about physics, right? And like quantum physics and stuff like that. Or so that's where like you have to know enough about reality.
Yeah.
In my mind, right? To be like, my bullshit detector's going off, right?
Yeah.
So reptilians, James? No. You know why not reptilians? Because why the hell would a different planet out there have reptiles on it? Like,
Right.
like they just picked lizards? Like, did they?
I'm sure they have an
Oh, man.
explanation.
Yeah. So, but that's where I don't know. Everybody's got their own level of bullshit detector out there, but I do think it's steeped in how much you know about the reality of the situation. And I do think it's very similar to like the anti-vax movement right now, right? Like, if people don't know how vaccines work, or maybe they just don't trust science as a process, right? So I think we talked about this before. Like, COVID was a great example of how science is a process, not like an exact situation. Like, we learned about how the nature of the virus changed over time and how the actual vaccine works. So, but again, it's all based on a combination, I guess I would say, in my opinion, of how much do you know about the way reality works around you.
Yeah.
And like, what level of, I keep going back to this, like, is there any crazy precedent that would even give you a foundation to stand upon for this? So I don't know. You guys have your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a good way to put it. Like, but again, it's just the tricky thing about, like, I think the good way to put it is just, like you said, is you've got to like maintain this connection with and understanding of reality, and know that when you've kind of departed or lost that connection. But that's the hard thing, you know, like because these things suck you in, and you feel like now you actually are more connected to reality than you were before.
Yeah. And if I guess if I go back to that like framework we were using earlier, the idea of confirmation bias, like that's the opposite of confirmation bias, is the ability to critically think. Right. And to live in a world where I can be wrong, and being wrong is okay. Right. We did a whole episode on being wrong. Yeah. Right. This is going to this 3-part series is a culmination of all topics we have covered to this point. But regardless, like, nice. I don't know. I do think that maybe that's the tipping point for when and that's probably different from person to person, right? Like, it's just based on where this slippery slope occurs for you. But I think it's all combated by the person's ability to be like, is this real? And if it's not real, it's a fun story, right? But I'm not going to subscribe to it. So, all right. Wow, what a discussion. So here we go, guys. We're going to buckle in for the rest of this series, believing that feminists, also known as Beckies, or a deep state cabal, have somehow caused your failed career, your stock market woes, low wages, lack of consistent romance, or erectile dysfunction is bullshit. As a man, I don't like to make a lot of rules about what men should not do. I'm not Jesse Waters. But I can say men take responsibility for their situation. It can be a long road to navigate on your own, but I can speak from experience that even if it feels like you've personally exhausted all options, asking for help is always another option. The tragedy of the manosphere lies down the road of self-pity and projection, and no man, no great man, stands for that, regardless of how dressed it is in the novelties of greed and narcissism. So I'll wrap up with a quote from James Garfield, our 20th president, who said, "I mean to make myself a man, and if I succeed, I shall succeed in everything else." Dang, man. Get out there and make a man of yourself. Be a good man. I'm sure as hell going to try. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dang Man. You know the script. Subscribe to us on your favorite platform, write us a review, and share your favorite experiences with your friends. All of this helps us reach more men to grow our community.